Morning Grind with Pork Rinds.
Welcome to the show.
And a good morning, a good Monday morning to you right here on the Morning Rant. Dave Garner with you till 11 o'clock this morning. Appreciate you guys being with us. Back for another week and another episode. I think we've done something right the first 2 weeks, because if not, like I had said before, we wouldn't be on the air. So again, we appreciate you guys tuning in, listening in each and every day. Again, a lot of different ways, as we've talked about, to listen to the program and to the station. Again, the Sports Pig. We were your home for NASCAR yesterday, as again, Denny Hamlin was able to reach victory lane in a big race out there in Las Vegas. Our very own Chase Elliott coming home in the 2 spot there. So again, congratulations to Chase. Certainly a good run yesterday for that Napa team there. Again, our boy from Dawsonville, as we welcome you into the show. A lot to cover over this next hour as we get you caught up on everything that happened over the weekend, and there's a lot of stuff that happened. The biggest thing, really, from a regional standpoint, congratulations to our local high schools, and we're going to talk more about this here in just a few moments. Again, basically three of our area high schools coming away with state championships. We were 3 for 3 over the weekend. How exciting was that? Of course, it started earlier in the week with Heritage, the Lady Generals out of Ringgold, winning their first ever state championship on Wednesday down in Macon during the GHSA state championships. And then a little bit later in the week, on Friday evening, in a game that you could hear over on our sister station, over on 101.1 The Pulse, it was Creekview, the Lady Grizzlies, winning their first state basketball championship, getting it done by 2 over Milton in a nip and tuck game that came down to the wire. Congratulations to Coach Eric Herrick and the Lady Grizzlies on winning that championship. And then we woke up the next morning and we saw Murray County avenge last year's state championship loss as they returned the favor against Hardaway out of Columbus, and they win by 3. So basically you had essentially 3 of our area high schools win 3 state championships by a combined, I think, 7 points when you add up the totals there. So, again, a lot of great games coming right down to the wire, and we're going to talk about those a little bit more in detail as well. Joining us right now on the program, my co-host, Big John Davis, is part of our Monday morning quarterback segment right here on the Morning Rant, brought to you by your friends at Green Heating and Cooling. What's up, John? Oh, there we go. Okay, I lost you for just a moment there, but everything going good, man?
Everything's going good. Good to see you, pal.
There you go, man. Looking good over there. Got the Georgia Tech pullover again. So, man, you are sporting the colors as always, and appreciate you being with us right here, buddy. You know, we were talking. We're going to talk a lot about March Madness. We're going to dive into the bracket just a little bit. Of course, Selection Sunday yesterday. So we know who is where now, and we know where everyone is falling. You and I were talking about Miami of Ohio. Now, they did lose a game in the conference tournament, but they still make it in as an 11 seed, which is where a lot of folks predicted they would be. But we're going to talk about it later in the show and kind of tease, some of our Cinderellas and maybe some of our first-round upset picks, and we'll do that over the next, week or so as we get into the tournament. We're going to kind of go, each day we'll go round by round, as we progress throughout the week and so forth. But, anything that jump out at you overall as far as this bracket or anything having to do with March Madness initially?
I think not really, because I haven't had a chance to look at the brackets yet and printed them out and stuff, but I will give you a little bit of a feel-good story.
Yep.
Before I went to bed last night, I read an article, and I believe the University of South Florida basketball team is headed to Buffalo for the first round, and come to find out, the head coach, and I'm sorry I don't have his name written down, but his father has never watched him coach a game in college, and so this is going to be a great time for them. And unfortunately, his father has dementia.
Oh, wow.
And so it's going to, hopefully Buffalo will do him right and take care of him and give him a great big warm welcome and kind of the end of the fairy tale season for that coach and for the team.
Yeah. Well, if anybody knows the community of Buffalo and how they are with things like that, it would be you, obviously. And I know that you obviously loved your time in Buffalo. We're going to take a trip on Wednesday. We'll take a trip down memory lane with the Refrigerator Mover, a new segment right here that we're going to have throughout the week right here on the Morning Rant. But definitely Buffalo, very caring community, and so it'll be interesting to see how they embrace. And we're excited about that for sure. We'll talk about that later in the show too as well. I've got a couple of 12 versus 5s. I mean, it's almost a lock that every year in the tournament you're going to have at least one or two of those like 12-5, type, team 11 sixes, things that are going to happen like that. So we're going to do our best to try to predict a couple perhaps. Exciting news locally. I know you're a Tech guy, but Georgia did make it in as an 8 seed, but also Kennesaw State. How about the Owls as they win Conference USA? What a heater they're on, winning the conference in football and now in men's basketball, and they're headed to the big dance for the second time in school history, so we're going to talk about that as well. Big Team USA baseball win last night over Dominican. It didn't come without a little bit of controversy late in that ball game there, but 2-1 the final. Team USA hangs on in the semifinals against the Dominican, and they will face the winner of Italy-Venezuela, who plays tonight in the other semifinal. That'll be, of course, for the World Baseball Classic Championship, and so we're gonna touch on that as well. And we appreciate you guys being with us. As always, we're the home of ESPN Radio in North Georgia on the SportsPig app and online at sportspigradio.com. You can find us on our social media, again, SportsPig on Facebook and also on Twitter. And again, the Morning Rant on Instagram. Excuse me, at the Morning Rant _ WPGY, and then on YouTube. You can find full video episodes of this show loaded up daily on YouTube as well. John, what was the biggest thing that stuck out to you this weekend, man? Just to kind of coming off of this weekend here as we talk about our Monday morning quarterback segment.
Well, just looking at everything that I've written down and I've been kind of busy over the weekend. I also had I unfortunately wasn't put on IR, but I was close.
You're close to making the list.
Shoulder issues that was kind of getting over my mental state of being able to concentrate on anything. But I think the biggest thing of the weekend is you've already covered it. Is Heritage, Murray, and Creekside,
Creekview,
winning their championships. And I just went online. I think it might have been Friday morning, maybe Saturday morning, and noticed, of course, I grew up in Murray County for about a year.
Okay,
and, I still have family over there.
Right.
And I read the article where the last state championship team there was in 1965.
Yes. Yeah.
And so the coaches brought in the older players to be able to meet with the younger players. And I just really thought that was really neat. And you would have to kind of hope that that kind of gave the girls a little bit of a push to see the history that they had, the ability to make.
Yeah, and I think that, when you talk about high school basketball, we've talked about the power shift, obviously, to the north. We saw that kind of play out over the week there. The all-Cobb County 6A championship between Wheeler and Pebblebrook certainly lived up to it. Pebblebrook, I tell you what, the Falcons, man, they did what they could do to hang in there with a nationally ranked team like Wheeler, but it was Wheeler who came away with the title. And then, kind of on another, if you will, a local high school note, North Paulding, right on the fringe of our, listenership as well. North Paulding also getting a big dub in the 6A girls game against Grayson. So, again, very North Georgia heavy, especially as you get to the larger classifications, and so it was great to see us come away there. But yeah, I didn't know you had a little bit of roots there in Murray County. So
I did. There's a gentleman that went to school with my father, Doug Griffin, used to be the superintendent of schools over there.
Okay, yeah.
Of course, my uncle Gary Green and his wife Diane, they have a flower shop, and their kids are over there. So we stayed there as we were transitioning from Chamblee to LJ. We stopped off in Murray County for a little over a year, and a lot of great memories. But I used to go up there and with my uncle Gary and watch the Murray County Indian boys play. And back when they were really, really good in the early to mid 70s. Had some great players there, and so a lot of good memories there.
Yeah, congratulations certainly to Coach Chris Tipton and the Murray County Lady Indians. This was their third straight trip to the Final Four. 2 years ago, they lost out in the Final Four. Last year, of course, they won in the Final Four, but then lost the state championship to Hardaway. But then this past weekend on Saturday morning, they were able to avenge that loss. So we talked about this Maury County team able to kind of stair-step every year. For the last several years, they've been able to go one game further, if you will. And so there was only room for one more step this past weekend, and that was indeed bringing home the actual state championship, which, of course, they did on Saturday. And it was great being able to talk to Coach Tipton after the game as part of our live broadcast again over on our sister station. And then, of course, also Callan Ledford, the lone senior on the team. So, when you think about it, I mean, basically the core outside of Callan going to be back. So I don't think the Maury County Lady Indians are going away anytime soon. So again, it was very exciting to see them win the championship. We woke up this morning. We had some storms. Of course, it came through. I know things are going to kind of chill out throughout the day. A chance of snow, this, that, and the other. Did you guys make it through everything okay down there? What was it like?
I didn't hear a thing. It did come through. It woke my wife up. It did come through. I see some limbs in the yard, but I didn't hear anything. So.
Yeah, well, that's you're fortunate. Now, I heard a lot going on, especially early this morning, and I'm actually wearing a T-shirt right now, but I've got a sweater on. It's just a little hot here in the studio. But as the day goes on, man, the temperatures are going to get lower. There's some talk of snow and things like that here in the North Georgia, North Metro area. So it'll be interesting to see how the day plays out. But we thank you guys for being with us right here on the program. John, the broadcasts were great on Friday and Saturday. But I've never seen, like at the Macon Coliseum, and this is not a knock on anyone, I think the game before ours was Southwest Macon. So you had a local team playing in the tournament there, and there were so many people in the building when we arrived that the fire marshal actually had to shut it down. They wouldn't let anybody else in the building. So we had to wait. We had our gear, but we couldn't set up. We had to wait outside for a good 30 minutes, and that's after we had already kind of run around both sides of the building a couple times. And so it was just it was a crazy situation on Friday, but we were able to get set up, get in there, bring you the live broadcast to Creekview, and then, of course, the next morning we had to move some things around. GHSA was trying to put us here and there, and so, it was just one of those things. And then the traffic, though, getting back home, and we may talk about this a little bit later in the show. If we want a real rant, then you might want to stick around, because my epic rants about the Georgia DOT are quite humorous, at least to my friends, at least. But my 2-hour trip from Macon getting home on Saturday turned into a 4.5-hour trip. And so, again, we'll talk about that a little bit later on in the show as well, perhaps, if we have some time there. But we're up against our first break. We'll take a timeout and come back. We are going to dive into a little bit of football news, of course, March Madness, and a lot of other stuff here in the remaining minutes of the program right here. You're joining us on a Monday right here on the home of ESPN Radio in North Georgia on the Sports Pig app.
Tired of shouting your business's name into the void and getting nothing but crickets? Your brand deserves more than awkward billboard glances and flyers lining bird cages. Right now, listeners are hearing me ramble on instead of your ad. That's a touchdown for missed opportunities and a fumble for your wallet.
Recovered, Atlanta, game over.
Your ad could be here, making fans laugh, cheer, and most importantly, call you. Go to sportspigradio.com or call 678-454-9552 and get your business off the bench and into the game.
Big opinions of the big games from the big mouths.
Man, I think it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's the Morning Rant on WPGY, the Sports Pig, North Georgia's home for ESPN Radio.
Sit down.
And welcome back to the program right here on a Monday morning. A lot of eyes on the weather today, especially here in North Georgia. Not sure exactly what it's going to do. It's always kind of unpredictable, but we appreciate you guys being in there with us. Dave Garner alongside John Davis here on a Monday morning, right up until Chuck Oliver here at 11 o'clock today. And, John, I want to dive into a little bit of NFL, free agency news. Obviously, the new league year begins this week. A lot of moves being made. We were talking specifically about, the Buffalo Bills. I mean, DJ Moore, kind of I don't know if you feel like he's kind of that bona fide number one for Josh Allen, but regardless, a lot of moves being made around the league. You and I have talked about it over the last week or two, and what stood out to you so far here over this first week or so?
I think in Buffalo's case, it's going to be hard to tell because as an offensive coordinator, you call a game differently than as if you're a head coach.
Right. Yeah.
So apparently, Brady has seen something, and I'm sorry, I need to tell the listeners out there, I don't always keep up 100% in the off season, like I used to. But
it doesn't really matter right now anyway.
They signed their center and I think another guard back into the fold that had been there. So they solidified that offensive line. And yeah, I think the thing that you're saying, Dawson Knox, I believe they re-signed.
Yes.
And but they've got to find that number one. And it'll be interesting to see how the offense changes. Just like I said, I know it might not be big changes, but when you've watched it enough, you can tell the play calling definitely differs.
Yes.
Because now it's on you. And so so I'm sure they're trying to bring in. To me, it's been very quiet talking to my friends up there. Nothing's really been said. I think the excitement and the momentum of the new stadium building and coming up and opening everything, kind of. I think the Bills kind of want that. I think they want a distraction. From the way the season ended last year.
I know.
With the firing of McDermott.
Right.
So we'll see how it plays out, and it's there's lots of time for different moves, and it's just always moving pieces, as you know.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of things moving and shaking. We saw, of course, Tua, obviously, coming to Atlanta. We've talked about that. Of course, the other big move that we saw was Kyler Murray, of course, a one-year deal with the Vikings, joining J.J. McCarthy. I think when you look around the league at the quarterback position, to me, that's the biggest thing. I mean, obviously, the quarterback, if you don't get the quarterback spot right, as we've talked about, ultimately you're not going to be successful in a lot of ways. It's hard to win in today's NFL without having solid quarterback play. You've got to take care of the ball. You got to have a game manager, but you got to have a dynamic guy that can do a little bit of everything. I mean, there's a lot of things that you look for out of the position now more so than you used to. But I think it's a situation when you look at a lot of the quarterback movement around the league. It's kind of interesting. That's one thing, obviously, Buffalo doesn't have to worry about right now. They've got a bona fide MVP in Josh Allen, but I think surrounding him with some weapons at this point, certainly a big deal. But you look at Kyler Murray, you look at some of the different moves that have happened, and it's certainly intriguing. Makes for an interesting start to the new league year.
Well, and I also think, as well as you know, and a lot of people out there know, what are they going to run? Are they an RPO offense? Are they a sit in the pocket offense? Are they a pound them down the off? I mean, until you can find that, that's where you have to match your quarterbacks. Malik Willis is not a good sit in the pocket quarterback.
Right.
Drake May's not a good RPO quarterback.
Right.
So you've got to find that quarterback. I don't know if Atlanta's lost their way. I think with Matt Ryan back in there, he can't get everything done in a year. Even though he would like to, and that's just the type of person he is.
Yeah.
I think it's going to take, and unfortunately, in today's times, you don't have much more than a year.
Right.
But get him some time to, money-wise, to put the right people in there. Atlanta can turn it around, but you've got to find the quarterback and figure out the system and stay committed to it. You just can't go all over the board unless you have a diverse offense like we had back in the early 90s. We could do that back in the early 90s, but you don't see that today anymore. It's either one or the other.
You really don't. And I think the thing about Tua, obviously, if you're talking about the Falcons, is the fact that he's a concussion away maybe from his playing days being over. He's not a guy that's gonna be encouraged to tuck it and run it anymore, even though he's had mobility throughout his career. That's one of the things that helped make him. But now you're in a situation where you don't want this guy, of course, taking hits. And then Michael Penix, I mean, honestly, has never really been a running quarterback. I think that there is a thing, and not to again, not to make this necessarily about race, but I think there's something that if you're a black quarterback in today's NFL, well then you're automatically a runner and a passer. You're automatically Lamar Jackson, and that's just simply not the case. I mean, Michael Penix has never really been a running quarterback ever. So again, the whole dual threat thing, this, that, and the other. I mean, Michael Penix is very much a pocket passer. I think now Tua at this point, certainly with the concussions he's had, is going to be limited to kind of being a pocket passer. You love when you have that dynamic because I think people in Atlanta certainly were used to seeing the Michael Vicks and so forth. But obviously with Matt Ryan, he spent a lot of time here. He wasn't very mobile at all. I mean, you very, very rarely ever saw Matt. His MVP season, he got a little bit more mobile as far as the play action and rolling out, which is something that he had never really really done until Kyle Shanahan kind of got in here and made him do it. And the year before he won the MVP, and but the year before the Falcons went to the Super Bowl, they had a rough year. I mean, it was kind of tough, but there's always that adjustment period right there. But I think when you talk about the current state of the Atlanta Falcons and specifically the quarterback position, I think there's this thing that's like, well, you got Tua, and he can run, and you got Penix, and no, I mean, Penix has had ACL surgeries, knee surgery. He's not going anywhere. Right. I mean, I don't. No. Penix is not a guy that if I'm an opposing defense, then I'm going to worry a whole lot about with his mobility.
Well, and I'm going to say this because I feel like I can. I don't think Michael's a very good quarterback. Yeah, I think he has had the 2 ACLs, and I'm not. When I say I don't think he's a very good quarterback, I think he's a great athlete. Obviously the skills that he has. But if you just watch him, even me, an offensive lineman can look at him and say, dude, that's just not a good throw.
Right.
Or you're throwing off your back foot or you're doing this. And so, you get, again, it just goes back to finding the quarterback that's going to fit the system and committing to it. And so, whether it's going to, and you're right with Tua. I mean, he's one hit to the turf and he's done.
Right.
And Dave, I'll be honest with you now. I'm surprised he's still paying because I think he's had like 4 or 5.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there was a time where they had said, he may be done. I remember one time when he was laying out on the turf and his head had, bounced off of it. And I think a lot of people felt like in that moment, I think that was maybe 2 seasons ago, where people felt like, okay, he's done. Like this is it for him.
Yeah.
And
when you get hit and your arm goes stiff, that's a sign.
Right. And your fingers get all crazy and wonky. Yeah. You're right about that. And so that's the one thing you worry about. I know from a financial sense, I think it made sense from the financial point of view because Miami's still paying him, much like, we're still paying Kurt. To a certain extent. So I know it makes sense from a financial standpoint, but, this is a fan base that suffered through 8 straight losing seasons, and all you had to do, and over the last couple of years, as we know, the NFC South has been absolutely horrid. I mean, 1 game over 500, you're the division champ and you're in the playoffs, and yet you've had so many terrible losses and bad losses that, if your field goal kicker can make a kick or if you can beat a team you're supposed to at least just once during the season, I mean, you're in the playoffs, and that's the frustrating thing about it is people have had this Falcons team penciled in as the division champ over the last 2 or 3 years because it looked like it was their division to have, and yet, for whatever reason, they just haven't been able to take it.
Yeah. And I was looking up some notes and stuff. The team that's scary that I think you were talking about, maybe not, but was Carolina.
Oh, yeah.
Carolina has had a fantastic offseason so far in free agency. So it's going to push these other guys. I mean, somebody's ultimately going to step up. Somebody's ultimately going to say, okay, here's the money. They raised the salary cap to $330 million. So don't cry me that you don't have any money. So it's just it all goes back to your salary cap manager, your owner, and or not your owner, but your head coach and your GM.
Right.
Being all on the same page. But that guy that controls the money, I mean, those are hard decisions to make, as you know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. And certainly Ian Cunningham, the new GM of the Atlanta Falcons, with Matt Ryan as president of football, certainly have their work cut out for him right here to try to make some things happen on a limited budget. Again, certainly don't have a baller budget at this point to go out and spend a lot of money. And as we talked about all during the show last week, the Falcons definitely doing some bargain shopping and trying to, fill some gaps, trying to improve their receiver room. I know they need some help in the back end of the defense now, especially with D. Alford going up to Buffalo on a few years there. So, again, a lot of moving and shaking going around the league. We're going to continue to talk about that over the coming weeks as things continue to materialize. And, it'll be interesting.
If I could say one more thing, Dave, about, filling in the pieces and stuff. Hey, that's how I made my career in Buffalo. Yeah. I left Houston and got an opportunity in Buffalo, and look what happened.
Yeah.
So there are some kids out there that might be on the second string or might be a backup with other teams that have the confidence that know that they can play.
Right.
And if Atlanta can define those guys and figure out who's going to be the best fit, those kids can come in to be, have a good career and mesh with the other offensive line from an offensive line standpoint.
Sure, yeah.
All over the field. But for me speaking as an offensive lineman, that's where it all begins, up front. And but there's some people, I think the offensive line play right now, and I'll let you go, is that it's the worst I've ever seen in the NFL.
Wow.
But I do think that there are some kids there that really want to do well, that really want to play and value their time in the NFL.
Yeah.
And it's always nice to see those guys coming up with UFL here in the next couple of weeks. You're going to see some guys that might not be the most talented, but they're going to be out there trying because they want to have a chance to make a roster in the fall.
Yeah. So what is it about the O-line position or the development, I guess, or lack thereof in today's game that leads you to feel that way? Because I think that's an interesting take.
I don't it's I'm going to say this, of course, it'll make a lot of people mad. I don't think they just don't touch techniques anymore.
Right.
It's always turn, or it's just always. I mean, Dave, these guys are 370 pounds.
Yeah.
All you got to do is get in the way. And those running backs are so good, you know, they can just find the hole in everything.
Right.
And to me, that's just not football, you know. But if you see your teams like Pittsburgh's building their offensive line and running game together. Look at the New England Patriots. They're building a run game.
Oh, yeah.
But when you watch that offensive line, they're coming off the ball. They're actually, engaging with the defensive line instead of letting them come to you.
Right.
And I just don't like that type of football. And one of my old teammates and roommates coaches out west, and he's like, dude, he says they're making $30-40 million. They're just going to get in the way. They're not listening to anything, and I'm
right.
like, I understand.
Yeah, relying on that for sure.
So that's the thing. It just kills me when I get on and watching TV. And again, I don't know why I do it to myself, but I go directly to the offensive line, and I'm like, man, this is just awful.
Yeah.
So,
no, I feel you.
You see your disciplined teams have very good offensive lines.
Yep.
And I'm not blanketing that, but I'm just saying you can see the old Pete Carroll teams that love to use to run the ball. The Pittsburghs, the Green Bay Packers, New England, and because they knew what that was going to do.
Right.
For at the time a subpar quarterback in Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Because they were like, hey, we need to run the ball because we don't know what this seventh rounder can do.
Right.
And then lo and behold, look what he does.
There we go. Hot takes, hot mics right here on the Morning Rant. That's what this show is all about. That's why we got Big John on here again, bringing that pro insider again right here to the show and that perspective, man. I love it. We are fired up here on a Monday. Appreciate you guys being with us right here. We're going to take our second break and come right back. You're listening to the Sports Pig. We're the home of ESPN Radio in North Georgia on the Sports Pig app and online at sportspigradio.com.
Tired of shouting your business's name into the void and getting nothing but crickets? Your brand deserves more than awkward billboard glances and flyers lining bird cages. Right now, listeners are hearing me ramble on instead of your ad. That's a touchdown for missed opportunities and a fumble for your wallet.
Recovered, Atlanta. Game over.
Your ad could be here, making fans laugh, cheer, and most importantly, call you. Go to sportspigradio.com or call 678-454-9552 and get your business off the bench and into the game.
Time to hang it in the Louvre.
Oh, this looks nice.
Our favorite moments from the week in sports here on the Morning Rant.
All right, we were back here on the Morning Rant. Dave Garner with you. John Davis till 11 o'clock this morning. Chuck Oliver coming up a little bit later on here in the program, and then we'll give way to the rest of our ESPN lineup throughout the afternoon. Rich Eisen 1 to 3, Paul Feinbaum 3 to 7 right here on the home of ESPN Radio in North Georgia. John, we were talking about it earlier, some of our favorite moments. You mentioned the high school girls basketball state championships. What a moment, what a special moment that was this past weekend. I'm going to go with Team USA getting it done over Team Dominican last night, 2-1. Again, a couple of solo home runs there. A little bit of controversy at the end. I do think that strikeout call, I do think that on the 3-2 pitch, I think it was a little low. But honestly, you look at it, that wouldn't necessarily lost the game. It would have put them at the corners with 2 out. Still got to get that run home if you're the Dominican, with the tying run at third in that situation there. But nonetheless, hey, you'll take it. Team USA headed to the championship now. of the World Baseball Classic.
Yeah, no, and I agree with you, but it also look earlier into the game when the USA was on defense and pitching, or when we were batting. I'm sorry, the ref was not being nice to us on the outside. I mean, there were several pitches on the outside that were definitely balls that he was calling balls.
It works both ways. Yeah.
So I think it plays out at the end of the day. I know people get their feelings hurt, but the USA's in the finals, so
they
that's all
are.
that matters.
Yeah. I tell you, when you talk about the crowds and just the way and all the excessive bat flipping. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, I don't mind a little showmanship, a little one-upmanship, if you will, when it comes to some of that stuff. But a lot of these bat tosses and things they're a little extreme. I mean, they're excited to get the crowd fired up. But definitely the wind was kind of taken out of the sails last night by Team Dominican. And then, of course, Venezuela, Italy over on the other side there. But, good for the USA. Paul Skeens had a pretty good outing there, and then combined with the staff there in the bullpen, allowing just the one run to a Dominican team that set the record for the most home runs in a World Baseball Classic. I think they ended up with 15 or maybe 16 last night total. So they had really lived off the long ball. But credit that Team USA pitching staff for cooling them down.
Yeah, no, and I feel kind of bad the last time we talked about the Baseball Classic. I thought they were just still in exhibition games, but they had already started the actual Classic. So I made some comments that weren't very smart. But no, the atmosphere, I mean, literally sitting here, I was up in my office. I was just thinking, this is World Series. I mean, yeah, and it was from both sides. They had support for Dominican and also U.S. And
yep. I'm losing you there for just a second. You there? All right, I think there we go. There we go. I lost you for just a second, John. I think you're there, though.
In and out.
Yeah, there we go. Uh-oh. All right, I think we lost you for just a second there. Big John Davis right here. Oh, there he is.
I just think the intensity, I think the fans from both sides.
Yep, there we go. All right, losing you a little bit right there.
It was World Series-esque.
Right, absolutely. Oh, yeah, I mean, I think when you look at the, the crowds and you look at the excitement that the World Baseball Classic has generated. We talked about it last week, how all these sports leagues are kind of going all over the world, trying to, obviously the NFL playing all the games overseas, in an effort to try to grow the sport globally. To grow, American football globally. Baseball, and basketball really, and of course soccer are already kind of at that world scale. So it's a natural transition, and especially when you look at the makeup of the MLB, a lot of it is Dominican, a lot of it is Venezuela, and a lot of it is Curacao, Canada, you name it. So, again, it's great to see the nations come together. I like it. I mean, it's just like the Olympics. It's every 4 years, or the World Cup. It's basically World Baseball Classic kind of follows that same format there. So, again, it's been a lot of fun, but there's one more, well, technically two more games, the other semifinals tonight between Team Italy, who's not very much from Italy, by the way. They're mostly American-born players there, but they're taking on Venezuela, and, of course, the Atlanta Braves' very own Ronald Acuna moonlighting again for Team Venezuela as well. So that'll be interesting to see what happens there, and then, of course, the winner will take on Team USA for the World Baseball Classic Championship. John, I want to go back to the high school thing for a moment because it was such a special weekend. And we'll talk about it over the next couple days. I mean, high school basketball and high school wrestling now officially, wrapping up for the most part there as far as the school seasons go. A lot of these players, of course, play year-round in different leagues and stuff. But, we branded over on our sister station, 101.1 The Pulse, the first time we'd ever done a full basketball season, and we branded it as Hoop Dreams. And, I don't know. People may be familiar with the Hoop Dreams documentary, that existed out there, and it was kind of the namesake of it. But again, we call it that because, every kid wakes up with that dream of playing or winning a championship, and maybe being a professional athlete. You've been in that seat. You know what it takes to get to that point. It was so awesome. I think that my favorite part of the weekend was seeing the smiles on the faces of the players and the teams, knowing that they had achieved that hoop dream that they probably had as a child when they first started playing the sport. And now here they are, the culmination of all that hard work, lifting that trophy above their head over the weekend and being able to say, man, I made it. Now, a lot of these student athletes, they'll have a career beyond high school. You know, some of them a few of them will play maybe collegiately, but they'll have a career in something else at some point. But man, I tell you what, it was so nice to actually see the culmination of that season in the term hoop dreams come true for so many of our area student athletes. And I know you can relate to that.
Yeah. As well as you know, from the beginning of the season, and you start to see these kids grow. I know you see a lot of teams throughout the season and everything, but you know they're playing. You know, at the beginning of the year, you're playing for a championship. You know, and you have your goals. And you know, I always give my daughter a hard time, Julia, because she won the first national championship in our house when she won it in volleyball with the Walton Raiders.
Right, I remember
and
that.
I told her, I said, you know, that is something big. You know, I had the chance on my stage, but we couldn't get it done. What you did is not very easy, you know, competing against Texas teams and California teams and those guys. And so I could only imagine how the girls feel. I know how I felt walking off the field after a Super Bowl, just completely drained. But I also remember walking off of a field after we beat the Raiders 51-3.
Yeah.
And I was completely drained, you know, and it's just like, go get me in my locker. Let me just sit down, decompress, and then we can start enjoying it tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it was so nice. The coaches were so gracious, of course, after the game, after they knocked out the TV interviews, they came over to us, and we had Coach Herrick from Creekview on Friday after the game. Obviously emotional, you could tell. Coach Chris Tipton of Murray County, we had him and Callan Ledford, the senior, on Saturday in our post-game show. And, you know, we didn't keep them long. We wanted to be able to let them go celebrate with their team because I know at that point you're emotionally drained, you're physically drained. So, again, we do appreciate all those folks being gracious with their time. But, you know, you're right. And that's why I wanted to get your take, because you've been at that pinnacle. You know what it's like to achieve that dream of becoming that professional athlete, you know, a two-time All-American, playing in Super Bowls, playing on the game's highest stage, you know. And so, again, it was so awesome to see our season that we called Hoop Dreams end by seeing some dreams come true by being able to have some state championships and for our local teams to be able to bring them home. It was really an awesome experience. What wasn't an awesome experience was trying to get home, as we mentioned, on Saturday, man. And, you know, here's my thing. I'm going to rant for a little. This show's called The Morning Rant. So, you know, I don't want to have a show called Rant without a rant, right? I mean, John, you went there earlier with the play of the offensive line around the league collectively. That was a great one. I got another hot take, man. I'm not dogging on my friends that work for the Georgia DOT, but my goodness gracious. I mean, you know, being able to keep people moving through the city a little bit, and I know you live a little further south than I do, so you probably experience it more than I do on a consistent basis, but how in the world are you going to close 3 or 4 lanes in the Grady Curve to do a little bit of paving on a busy Saturday when you've got an Atlanta United match, you've got an Atlanta Hawks game going on, you got all these things going on here, and you got, you know, and I know some of the stuff has to be done, but oh yeah, spring, and a lot of it is because they're trying to get everything paid before the World Cup gets here. But you've known for a long time now that you were getting the World Cup. You know, why are we waiting and trying to get all this done at the same time? And I'm sure there may be a logical explanation for anyone out there that may work for the Georgia DOT. But I'm sorry, this is not just a one-time deal. I mean, I have sat here for, you know, 10, 15, 20 years and had to, you know, I mean, it's just such an inconvenience. You've got to plan wherever you're going. You got to plan 3 hours early because you just don't know if you're going to get through. But it was just one of those things where, my goodness, you know, you're already drained and you got to go through all that. It's just a lot of rigmarole.
Well, Hester just left 15 minutes ago. If that tells you anything, she left about 10:30. So what we have tried to do down here in Atlanta is we just try to time it.
Well, yeah, you have to.
You know, don't leave after 9:30. And it's gotten a little. You used to, you could, you know, maybe get home by 3:30. But now, if you don't get out by 1:30 or 2, it's going to take another hour to get home.
Oh, easily, yeah.
We just kind of time our days, or at least she does, and thankfully she works close in Roswell. But it's absolutely ludicrous the thought process of closing 4 lanes on 285 on Camp Creek when everybody's trying to get to the airport. Or,
Right,
you know,
yeah.
you name it. And I've been in those. There's no way. It's like every road going into the airport is having the road work done.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just absolutely, it just blows your mind.
Well, I'm gonna throw some shade at my GPS too. There were 2 times during that trip Saturday coming home that my GPS said, "Hey, we're going to shave you 21 minutes off your trip if you go this way." So I go this way, and it added to it. I mean, it didn't even help. It actually put me further behind because everybody else is looking at their GPS, and they're all thinking the same thing too. And so I'm going back roads, basically snaking my way home from, Hampton, all the way back to, the north side of town. And I'm just like, you got to be kidding me. So it's one of those things where you really can't trust the GPS. You can't trust the DOT to help out or wherever to get you where you need to go. And, man, it was just, but that's the story of my life. I mean, and I will admit, I have very little patience behind the wheel of a car. That's my fault. But again, it compounds it a lot after you've already had a long day and then you get a long drive. So, yeah. Always a lot of fun.
But sorry about that. We were cutting in and out. The down where you're talking about in McIntosh and that area down there, oh my God! I mean, that is
McDonough and Stockbridge. Yeah, you can't get through. Yeah.
It's just, and they won't open up the lane for you.
Right.
It's like, okay, everybody's coming home from all of these activities. Let's go ahead and open up the toll-free lane and make a little bit of money. And
right.
Imagine how much money they are losing.
Oh, yeah.
Even by fines, because I can tell you one thing. If I didn't have the Peach Pass, I'd still get in there.
Well, I've got the Peach Pass, and sometimes it helps, and sometimes it just doesn't really. You got to get to the Peach Pass lane before you can use the Peach Pass, and sometimes that's the adventure in itself. Hey, we're up against our final break. On the other side of this last break, we will dive into March Madness talk, as we promised up top here today. John and I will look at the bracket, try to pick a couple of upsets there, and we'll talk about bracket challenges and all that in the final segment today. That'll be an ongoing conversation we have leading up to the big dance starting later this week, but we appreciate you guys being with us right here on a Monday morning quarterback edition of the Morning Rant. This is the home of ESPN Radio in North Georgia and on the Sports Pig app and online at sportspigradio.com.
Tired of shouting your business's name into the void and getting nothing but crickets? Your brand deserves more than awkward billboard glances and flyers lining bird cages. Right now, listeners are hearing me ramble on instead of your ad. That's a touchdown for missed opportunities and a fumble for your wallet.
Recovered, Atlanta, game over.
Your ad could be here, making fans laugh, cheer, and most importantly, call you. Go to sportspigradio.com or call 678-454-9552 and get your business off the bench and into the game.
We bring the heat. You bring the trash talk.
Come on, man. Are you serious?
It's the Morning Rant, live on the Sports Pig app and sportspigradio.com.
And welcome back to the program here in the final segment of today's show. Appreciate you guys being with us right here on a Monday morning quarterback segment with Dave Garner and John Davis, Big John Davis, joining us right here once again on this edition of the program. Hey, just a reminder, again, the Geiger Legal Bracket Challenge is now underway. Again, our friends at the Geiger Legal Group are doing their bracket. It is free to join, and if you win, you get $1,000 cash in your pocket. Again, no strings attached. It's totally free to play. You win it, you get $1,000, but the best part about it, folks, you get $10,000 donated to a charity of your choice. And so, again, it's a great thing to play. I've already joined. I have not filled out my bracket yet because, John, I'm going to do a little bit of research right here. But we are going to talk some March Madness. But, again, we do encourage folks to go online, check out Geiger Legal Group online, again, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, you name it, all their social media. They got links to their bracket challenge. And I know I'm going to fill out a couple. We've got our little internal bracket that we do here with a couple of the guys at the station, so we're going to do that, and we're going to dive into that. Hey, and by the way, real quick before I forget about it, thank you to everyone who showed up on Saturday in Jasper to the Shamrock Shenanigans, again, event in the alley. Appreciate everyone coming by our Sports Pig tent. We had some rally towels there. Some folks were able to walk away with the official Sports Pig rally towel, and we'll have some more stuff there. This weekend, we're going to be in Canton at Etowah River Park for the Wing and Rock Fest, and really looking forward to this event. We're going to talk about it all week long, leading up to Saturday and Sunday, again, March 21st and 22nd, basically 11 a.m. to about 6 p.m., I think 7 p.m. on Saturday, 6 p.m. on Sunday. 20 different wing establishments are going to be there. They're going to have a wing eating contest, live tribute bands all day, arts and crafts, a farmer's market, kids activities, family-friendly event. We'll see you Saturday and Sunday out there at Wing and Rock Fest. Once again, we'll talk about that throughout the week right here on the Morning Rant. All right, John, let's dive into the bracket and talk a little bit about some of the things here as we kind of work our way up to round one. Playing games start in middle of the week. First rounds, later in the week there towards the weekend. But your initial thoughts, kind of looking down the bracket right here, man. Who's your Cinderella, man? You got a Cinderella picked out?
Yeah, I do. And going backwards, I think we all knew the last 2 or 3 weeks, the top four were always going to stay the same. It's just going to be who's 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Right.
And the egos are big enough that everybody has to be the overall number one. So
right.
let's
Yeah.
not forget that. But I tell you what, the one time that I did have a chance to watch some basketball this weekend, and the game that I really missed that I hated was the St. John's UConn.
Oh, yeah.
Game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I've got to tell you something. Anytime a Hurley loses, I am good. I am good.
Even at the hands of a Patino, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And for the last 2 years as well.
Right,
so,
right.
But I watched on Saturday, had a chance to watch a little bit once the medicine started kicking in. I tell you what, UVA looks really good.
Right,
And we all know Duke's a good basketball team. I don't know if they're at the elite level that they used to be,
right.
But they are pretty good. But I tell you what, I was talking to my buddy Warren via text, and that center UVA has, it just just the presence in there.
Oh, yeah.
And I just think that they played great defense. And you know as well as I do, I think the tournament's all about getting hot. And if you can get your shooters in there, get them in a groove, a lot of people don't understand and might not even think about this, if I could say it, is that a lot of these teams, not all of them, but a lot of these teams might not be playing in these huge arenas.
Right.
Whether it's at State Farm or Dallas, Texas and stuff like that. So the perception, the depth perception on the goals are a lot different. If that makes sense.
There are.
You've got to get in there earlier to have more time to try to put that together, and then you got to go to the next stadium.
Right.
But so I think what you see at the first week, or at least the Thursday, Friday games, that you're going to see a lot of the very good teams play very bad in the first half, and then they pull away at the end.
And then they'll do it,
But it's a matter of, can those good teams, lower seed teams, there's some of them that are out there, if they can stay close enough, that's what makes March Madness.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And we talk about that even with the high schools as well. I mean, playing in like Macon Coliseum when you're not used to that depth and not having something right behind the goal there definitely plays into that. I love one of my favorite parts of the movie Hoosiers is when they walk into the state championship venue there in Indianapolis, and he's like, wow, this looks big, doesn't it? And he gets out the tape measure, and he says, hey, put that tape measure up on the rim and let's measure it. It's still 10 feet, still 10 feet 1 inch, it's still the same size court, so hey, don't be intimidated by the venue there. But no doubt about it, always tends to play into that, a little bit later on there. Looking down the bracket, I mean, there's some teams. I mean, we talk about it every year. I mean, there's always those bracket busters. I feel like there's always a lock for a 12-5. If I had to go with a 12-5, I think so far out of the bracket, I would definitely look at probably, McNeese is a team that is intriguing. They were there last year, a very good basketball team. Vanderbilt, of course, coming right off of the SEC championship game, basically, where they, kind of dominated number one seeded Florida. But that may very well be one right there. McNeese has spent some money in their basketball program right there. A lot of people like Akron out of the Midwest to topple Texas Tech simply because of the injuries that Texas Tech has had. I could certainly see that one as well. Georgia, as we mentioned, made it in as the 8th seed there, taking on St. Louis, which I think is also kind of an intriguing matchup, setting up a potential round 2 matchup against the number 1 seed in Michigan. And then you've also got Kennesaw State, who grabbed a 14 seed, taking on Gonzaga. as much, and I'm an alum, man. I'm a proud alum of Kennesaw State. And it's not out of the question that they could pull off an upset right here. But Gonzaga, being a team that's just so battle tested, in these tournaments and kind of knowing what it takes to win. I'm not saying Gonzaga is going to make a deep run necessarily, but it's definitely going to be a tough road to hoe for the Owls to get over that hump in the first round. Yeah.
So it's interesting. The game that I have circled is Akron. I feel like that that's the one that might stick out for you. I just can't see Wisconsin, St. John's, and then again you go back to McNeese Vandy. That could be your second one that might see something. I'll be honest with you, I sent some juju up to Buffalo because St. Louis might be looking pretty good, and maybe get some wings in those guys to pull off that up.
Right, yeah, absolutely.
But So one of the things I wanted to say to these teams like Michigan State, Duke, North Carolina. I know I'm ACC Big Ten, but there's also some SEC schools in there. One of the I'm a huge fan of Michigan State because the coach, and I can't think
Izzo,
Tom
Izzo,
Tom Izzo. He schedules the hardest non-conference schedule in the country. It seems like year in and year out, and so he's ready to go. Now he might not get. He might be a 2 or 3 or 4 seed, but he knows exactly what position he's put himself in.
Right.
I just love it when they come in here because you look at the strength of schedule, you look at, points. I don't know. They've got all these barometers or whatever that you get to be into the final, 64 teams. I just look at the fact that, strength of schedule and then how you play against your other Power 5 teams.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I think there's when I look down the bracket, historically over the last several years, I think for like 6 or 7 years straight, one of the play-in teams, which are the 11 seeds in both the West and Midwest, they have the two play-in games. Well, one of those two teams has basically made it to the Sweet 16 ever since they started that format, that part of the bracket right there. So again, you look at those teams. Who has the potential? Could North Carolina State or Texas up in BYU? I think absolutely. You look at SMU against that Miami of Ohio team that we were talking about. They're putting Miami of Ohio in the play-in game against SMU with the winner taking on Tennessee. So, when you look at the likelihood of something like that happening, those are the things you have to pick, right? I mean, you live to pick the upsets, or at least I do when I'm filling out the bracket, man. It's like, okay, they're going to happen. Now, there's been some years like last year, it kind of played the script. I mean, there weren't a ton of, huge bracket busters. It wasn't as difficult to predict, the Final Four, at least 3 of the 4. But, we'll see what happens. I tend to like the tournaments because I'm such a fan of the underdog. I tend to like those years where brackets get busted early. It's just what makes March Madness, right?
I just think the most watched is Thursday and Friday because those. I mean, you get as many TVs as you can. One more point before you say goodbye. 11 of the, I want to say, top teams that are ranked or that are in the seeds 3 or higher, or maybe 4 or higher. $12 million or more on their rosters for NIL.
Wow. Yep. There you go. And we're going to continue that discussion as well because we've talked a lot about NIL right here in the program and how it's changed the landscape, of course, of college athletics. And, again, it trickles over to basketball as well. So certainly a discussion coming up a little bit later on right here. We are about out of time. John, thanks for being with us, man. Some great insights on the show today, buddy. We'll see you again later in the week.
Yep, looking forward to seeing you, Dave. Thanks a lot.
All right, there you go. Again, the Morning Rant, Monday through Friday, right here on the dial at 98.1, 93.7, and 101.1 on the HD2 band. And, of course, as always, living on social media. Again, the Sports Pig on Facebook and Twitter. And, of course, the Morning Rant on Instagram at the Morning Rant. And also full video editions of the show on YouTube each and every day. You can also go to sportspigradio.com and check out the podcast version of the show, the replay, live on our website. You don't have to go very far, and you can stream them into your car as well. So we appreciate you guys being with us once again right here on a Monday. We're off to a good start on the week. Throughout the week, we are going to talk more March Madness leading up to the big event, of course, Team USA and the World Baseball Classic Championship. Again, we will continue to praise our high schools, man. What a big weekend down in Macon. Again, congratulations once again to the Murray County Lady Indians, the Heritage Lady Generals, and the Creekview Lady Grizzlies for making it happen one more time down in Macon. Thank you so much for being with us right here on the program. Tomorrow will be a Rally Towel Tuesday. We'll dive more into March Madness. We'll talk a little more free agency. And, of course, later in the week, we'll dive into some Brave spring training action as well. As always, we end each and every show by saying, if you don't know, you better ask somebody. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Thanks for being with us right here on the Morning Rant.